it's Stephanie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm bringing you my February wrap-up. So in February I read 11 books and total I read 4,759 pages. 5 of those were audiobooks and 6 of those were physical books. Out of those 11, I read 3 mystery books, 1 classic book, and 7 fantasy books. So not super varied, but I read a lot of amazing books. So let's just jump right in. The first 3 books are the first 3 books in the Dresden Files series. So I read Stormfront on audio. I gave that 3 stars. Full Moon, physical book, 3 stars. And then Grave Peril, audiobook, 4 stars. So it follows the story and adventures of Harry Dresden, who is a wizard PI in Chicago, and he always gets into some kind of scrape or mystery that needs solving, and he has to use his magical abilities and with some help from his friends. So the series got off to just kind of an okay start, but I feel like at Grave Peril is where it really started taking off, and that's really where I became invested in the series. I'm currently a little bit into the 4th book, Summer Night, and I'm liking it so far a lot. So I definitely plan on continuing on with the series. Next, I read The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. That's the 2nd book in the Wheel of Time series. And I do plan on doing a book review for this, so I won't go too much into it, especially since it's the 2nd book in a series. And I will also link my review for the 1st book in the series, The Eye of the World, so that you can get a better synopsis. This book is where it really took off. Like, I feel like book 1, while I loved it and I gave it 5 stars, was more like a setup book. And then I feel like in The Great Hunt is really where things start really happening, and we're learning why things are happening or why things are the way they are, and we really get to start knowing our characters more than just superficially. So I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I've already started the 3rd book, The Dragon Reborn, and I'm just absolutely in love with the series. Next, I read Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 3rd book in the Mistborn Era 1 trilogy. And I have book reviews for the first 2 books in the series, and I will link those. This is basically set in a world where the bad guy won, and he has reigned for 1,000 years in tyranny. And Vin, who is a street urchin, and her ragtag crew band together to try to take down this Lord Ruler, and they don't fully realize what he's been doing and what the consequences will be for taking him down. And this is the epic conclusion to this trilogy. I am going to do a book review on it. I've been processing my thoughts because I want to do it justice, but I teared up at the end. The ending wasn't exactly what I wanted, but I found it to be very, very satisfying, and it did not take away at all from my enjoyment of the ending or the book. But I definitely was not expecting it. So I just love this series. I recommend it to everyone. It's so accessible and fast-paced and action-packed with great character development. I obviously gave it 5 stars. Do yourself a favor and go read it. So the next book I read was A Killer Edition by Lorna Barrett. This is the 13th book in the Booktown Mystery series. It's a cozy mystery, and it's set in Stoneham, New Hampshire, which is nicknamed Booktown. And our main character, Trisha Miles, owns the mystery bookstore Haven't Got a Clue, and she has a lot of free time on her hands now that she has promoted one of her employees to be her shop's assistant manager. So she decides to enter a bake-off, and in order to get herself fired up, she decides to get some romance novels. And while she's at the local romance bookstore, she sees an altercation between two people. And later, one of these people turns up dead, and Trisha finds the body. So, as per usual, she is on the hunt to find out who killed this person and why. And this is one of my favorite cozy mystery series. I love the writing. It's very realistic. It's not cheesy. Really only the titles or the names of the stores are puns, but the rest of it is just like a normal mystery novel. It's just within those cozy elements, like no gratuitous sex or violence or cursing or things like that. So I do recommend that series. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I listened to it on audio, and the audiobook narrator is excellent and does a really good job of giving the characters different voices that have a lot of nuance. So definitely recommend. The next book I read, I will not go into because I do have a book review for it. But that is Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames. I fell in love with this book. It's like a D&D campaign mixed with classic rock. And it's so freaking funny and heartbreaking and everything that you want a fantasy novel to be. I'll link my review. Just do yourself a favor and check it out. 5 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is the first book that I read for the Austen Anon read-along, and I was supposed to read this in January, but I did not finish it in January. But we won't talk about that. But this follows Catherine, and she loves Gothic novels, and this is like a satire Gothic novel, and the characters in it are just so enchanting and funny, and I love, because this is a satire novel, that all the little things are just completely blown out of proportion. And I've only read this once before, but I don't remember it being so funny. But it's definitely quite an enjoyable read, and I really enjoyed listening to other people talk about their thoughts on this book. I did give it 5 out of 5 stars, and I definitely enjoyed my time reading it. Next, I read Tart of Darkness by Denise Swanson. This is the first book in the Chef to Go mystery series, and I read this for the Cozy Escape Book Club, which is hosted by Cortagonist and Lisa Latte. And this follows the story of Danny Sloan, and she has left her high-stress HR job and has actually inherited a house, and so she has decided to go for her dream and have a catering chef-to-go type service. And she also boards some students from the local college as a way to kind of supplement her income. And one day she is catering this party for this Lucy, where have you been? I've been waiting for you. Caters this party for this mean girl, and the next day she turns up dead. So Danny and her boarders are now suspects in this girl's murder. And I want to give this like a 3.5 stars. I'm leaning toward a 3 star. It was good. Ow! I loved the relationship between the characters, but I thought the uncle in this was a little film noir, over the top kind of, although it did crack me up. So I did enjoy this, and I am going to continue with the series. This one just wasn't my favorite cozy. Next, I read Cat Trick by Sophie Kelly. This is the 4th book in the Magical Cats mystery series. It follows librarian Kathleen Paulson and her 2 magical cats, Owen and Hercules, one of which can turn invisible and the other one can walk through walls, because all of our animals can do that. But despite that, I love this series. As per usual, the main character, Kathleen, stumbles upon a body, gets involved in the investigation, and her cats help her figure out who done it. But I love the relationship she has with her cats. It's magical without being over the top, and the author makes it feel real. So it's just the right amount of magic to keep it realistic and keep you entertained without being like overly cheesy, if that makes sense. But I love that they have personality and they're so sassy and spunky, because that's how my cats are. But I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I listened to it on audio, which I highly recommend. The narrator's really great. And I'm definitely going to continue with this series because every book I've just found so fun and endearing, and I'm here for it. And last but certainly not least is one of my new favorite books ever, The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This, everybody advertised it as fantasy. So before you go into it, keep in mind it just has like some touches of fantasy. It's not this huge fantastical world, kind of like Brandon Sanderson or Robert Jordan or things like that. But there is fantasy and there is magic. But this follows the story of orphan Locke Lamora, and he gets taken in by this man who is the head of the gentleman bastards, who are thieves, and he teaches them everything about life and refinery and languages and food and stealing, and Locke Lamora becomes the most famous thief in his world. And he and the gentleman bastards get involved in this bloody coup, and there are so many twists and turns in this book. I flew through this book. It was so good, and I loved that the story itself kind of ended, but it left just enough of a cliffhanger to keep me interested in the next book, which I definitely plan on picking up soon. So I did give this 5 out of 5 stars. Highly, highly recommend. Overall, I had a really great reading month in February. I did not give any book less than 3 stars. So I'm considering this a huge, huge success. But what did you read in February? Have you read any of these books? If so, let me know in the comments. I'd love to talk to you guys. As always, if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.